designers need to be educated on business. That's something that guys don't miss on that. Like, stay connected to what's happening around you. And I'm not just talking about technology.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Lots of content design experience here with Hema, and lots of service and product design combined experience here. Welcome to the panel. Welcome to the community.
My name's Hema, and I've been in the UAE for almost a year and a half. I joined RAK Bank and moved my entire existence over here, and it's been an amazing experience. So that's always going to be the beginning of my intro, I think, until I'm 2 years in. If you haven't noticed, if you want to be a content designer, you've got to be in the glasses club. So love the glasses. I've heard that a few times. Thank you very much. I've always worked in content since I can remember. It's been many decades. I'm 47 now, so literally many decades. I've seen content go through so many different changes, in fashion, out of fashion, in fashion, out of fashion, redundancies, layoffs, all of that. It's very turbulent for such emotionally gifted people. So it has been literally a roller coaster, and I still enjoy it every single day. And that's a bit about me.
Thank you, Nora. Welcome once again. Really excited to have you.
Right. Hello, everyone. Nice to see everyone here midweek also. Congratulations for making it. So I'm Nora Mokhtar. I've been here in Dubai for like 5 years now. I moved from the product side. I worked in product for 10 years, and then moved to the agency side, which is like the evil side, you know. So through that, I think now I would say I specialize in banking and telcos within the consultancy side, and now I work in Publicis, which is an agency that has a few agencies below it, which works in content, which works in advertising. I am within Digitas, which are they overseeing all the digital experiences within Publicis. I work in ADCB at the moment as a seconded role, so I oversee experience design teams. Service design has been the main game changer for ADCB. I think this is something that we can talk about today thoroughly. AI has been a big game changer for them as well. They're moving aggressively. So it's a loaded topic that we have today. I'm super excited to be here.
Amazing. Welcome.
Hi, everybody. I've been fairly new to Dubai. I think we're going to step into the third year. Landmark, a lot of you might not know what the Landmark group does, but I'm sure you've heard of Centerpoint, Metro Station, Baby Shop. There have a bunch of different brands that operate in the value segment. Prior to coming to the retail space, I worked with IBM, and I'm an accidental designer. It took, I think it was about 5 years in my career. That's when I realized what I do is also called design. And that's been one of the most exciting chapters of my life. Because I didn't start off like a lot of you here with UX, UI. I would say probably my visual skills are not the best, and my team can attest to that. And I don't try to have an opinion on stuff like that. One thing that I have enjoyed doing is building things and helping people achieve outcomes. And if that process is called product or design or engineering, I think that's up to us. So I'm a firm believer it's the walls that you create for yourself is what you're going to be labeled as and known for.
Yeah. So I've been thinking about it, how to ask this question. Let's say AI, a lot of people are saying that it's going to augment your workflow. If you're a product designer or service designer in any of the tech roles, it's going to augment your role. So let's say you have AI in your team. Is it overperforming, due for a promotion, underperforming, or just meeting expectations?
I think interesting question. For me personally, I think we still don't know what we want to define AI as, right? We've been using it for chat interfaces. It's sad that we've gone all the way back to paragraphs of text, and that's the way that we think a cutting edge technology is meant to be, and that's how we're supposed to be interacting with it. Voice seems like really gaining traction, but let's be honest, most of the time it doesn't get what you really want, and it's disagreeing with everything that you're saying. Personally, for me, I think AI has, for the projects that I've done, I'd say it's definitely reshaping how we think about talent, how we think about resources. And I think as this conversation progresses, I would also like to talk about setting the stage and picking the field you want to play into. Um, I think gone are the days when you ask ChatGPT to improve this text, and if that's what you're using AI for, um, I think then there's a long road out for you. And the sad part is there's no education for this, right? You've got to take the leap and figure out if it works. So, sorry for the long-winded answer. I don't know if it's ready for a promotion. It feels like a consultant who's really trying to creep into the business. Like, nothing against consultants. I've been one. And they always have strong opinions about your business, and they overpromise that they can do better. But it's what kind of scope you set for AI.
What a question. We don't promote anyone at the moment. Okay, so if AI was a person, are they ready for a promotion? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. How's it performing in your team?
Which one? So ChatGPT is demoted at the moment. Okay, so honestly, like if you compare, I primarily use 3 AI tools in our workflow: ChatGPT, Gemini, and Perplexity. And each one of them I use for a different, and we train the teams to use it in a different capacity. So ChatGPT, really, we are demoting them at the moment, saying, guys, this is a chat AI tool that we don't use when we break down any problem statement. Put that on the side. Gemini, definitely a promotion, because when they started, they were not that good. So I would promote Gemini at the moment. When we give it a scope, it breaks it down into activities, and it's very breaks down complexity. It's very organized. Even in coding, our guys are using it in coding, massively amazing. Perplexity service designers here. How many service designers do we have, by the way? Any service designers? No, not really. UX designers, product designers. Okay, we have UX designers. So 100% that for breaking down the experience and the flow and the journey, and you start with something instead of nothing. Perplexity is a double promotion, 2 steps up. So that's my answer.
There's so many different levels of content improvement. So we use Copilot across the business officially. And what I have seen is that before people were using Copilot, the just general communication between developers, BAs, PMs, I guess not that English is not their first language. They speak a very kind of specific type of English sometimes, a very technical type of English, and it can be quite difficult to understand and communicate. Not just from my perspective, with everyone kind of in a bubble. So what I have seen is that it has helped to improve just basic things like emails, which I think is definitely an improvement. If we're talking about promoting AI for content in general, I would initially say I need to put it on a performance plan. However, your employee is only as good as the person that manages it. So I think that the thing that people forget to do is add the service design to AI, because AI so easily does literally fixes, your whatever paragraph you chuck into it, it will improve it to an extent, or improve it to what you think it's been improved to. But then if you're looking at it from a linguistics perspective, a content design perspective, usability, all of that, you have to know how to edit it. So therefore then the human has to come into play. And then you have prompts, and then you have kind of, you have to ask it the right thing. Otherwise it's not going to give you what you want. So it needs a framework, and I think that's something that's missing from a content perspective. However, where we are using it in other teams, I think it's definitely creating efficiencies, but for content, I think it's still creating inefficiencies.
Inefficiencies, you're
Yeah.
saying. Mohnish, since you are in retail and service design is really critical for retail, do you guys have any in-house service designers?
Okay, great question. I think it was my first week at Landmark, and I met with the agile coach, for example. Let's just say the agile coach. I had to explain to that person in my first week what does a service designer do, and what's the purpose of a service designer. And having said that, I think service designer is more of a mindset, right? We do have service designers in our team, and I've been fortunate enough to find the right set of people who can demonstrate value more than just make presentations. That's the sad reality of this profession, right? You make a linear journey that says everything right from your customer support all the way till what's happening on the storefront and how the employee is going to talk to the customer. But in reality, you're never even talking to all of them together at the same time. So you're never going to have a customer support agent and a retail staff and also someone who manages retail program in the same room. So it's up to you as a service designer to know what is your start and end line, and then figure out place for each aspects of it. So we have service designers that have worked on banking products before. I think banking, government, retail, insurance, these are some areas where service design really, really thrives. And the question you need to ask yourself is why? It's because you're not dealing with one stakeholder. I personally think UI is a skill that is so hard to get right. But the one thing that's good with UI is that you most likely have one stakeholder who's probably calling the shots. With service design, it gets a little more tricky. It's never the one stakeholder who's calling the shot. So your support guy wants to keep the phone faster. Your CX guy wants to make sure refunds are sent out in that same hour. And your business owner wants to make sure that you're not bleeding margin. So you can't always have in the same room. So helping or probably having a team that understands this nuance really, really helps. I'll give you an example. A lot of time, what we think of service design projects are, and I just want to break the myth. I think a lot of time it's about, oh, how are we going to talk to this retail person? Like, how's the retail staff going to talk to XYZ customer? Or what is the doorman going to do when you sort of enter a hotel or a restaurant, etc. In my view, there are three kinds of innovation that happen in all organizations. There is configuration, so how you configure the business. There is the experience element of it, and then there is the product offering. You'll be surprised to know most of our efforts, and including everyone on this panel, is for product offering and experience. But you sort of always make about 1 to 1.5x return on your investment on all these initiatives. And you make most money in defining what is your network and what is your profit model. So unless you're a new company, you have no say in what the profit model is going to be. So your second best bet is network. Now, if I want to make sure my customer who comes in the store sees the right kind of product and always feels like, how does this company know what I want? When fashion design is an art, right? And it's incredibly hard to predict whether a cashmere material is going to do well or whether checks are going to do well. And you sort of start thinking, okay, all of this is art. But now let's take a service design lens on it, right? It's about the network configuration. So you look at all your suppliers that you work with, and you ensure you give them a space to feed in what other players are doing in the market. You look at a trend report and say what they are doing in the market. Then you look at what your customers are doing online on other websites. Thankfully, there are tools that exist all of this today, and all this information is pretty much in silo. So as a service designer, your job would be, how can we do better assortment planning? How can I ensure that I'm using the right retail space and I'm optimizing for the right assortment to be kept on the right shelf? You're ensuring that, hey, if I'm trying to sell to a new mother, do I have the right retail staff that knows and is trained to support the new mother? More often than not, I think a lot of you would be surprised, at least I was, because don't have kids yet, is that the man is making the decision to buy the stroller, and it was just not clear to me when this insight came. And so you gotta ensure that that person has a tablet that knows that, okay, people from this region, if this is their first kid, what kind of strollers would they buy? And if they buy a stroller, probably in 60 days they're gonna buy a crib, or vice versa. And then providing that insight to that retail staff is service design. Now, all of this, when this happens, you got to make sure that you're not bleeding money, so you're not always giving out discounts. And this as a framework, as a policy to communicate to designers, to content writers, to business owners, is a lot about the orchestration art of service design. So if you've had a good service, and they probably may not have a service designer, but if they do, that experience is absolutely great and is supposed to be invisible, so you don't realize that this is happening in the background. Uh, yeah, I think with service design and in retail, or whether it's banking, retail, insurance, these are the three areas where I think service design really, really thrives. It's about knowing where you want to play. So whether you want to do an experience play, a configuration play, or a product offering play. And all three of them are really different. I hope after this conversation, you go back and you look at what are some of the decisions 10 different people took in 10 different rooms to ensure that one outcome happens.
Yes, so things are 10, 20 times faster now, but it's not 100 times faster, or it's not instant, or it doesn't work this way. So in the interview process, we make sure that the candidates use the tools, and we ask them and we encourage them to tell us which tools they have used. If they didn't use an AI tool, we'd be worried. So this is the extent that things are at the moment. No, you guys like explore, right? If you're not using that by now, no, try it, use it, and be confident when you get to present it as well. For our stakeholders, now things have changed in the last couple of years a bit. Now we have within the organization's innovation labs that are all AI. So it's when someone like a product owner has an idea now, they would go into this AI lab and they would get something out instantly. So we kind of have that now in a few organizations that we're working with, just to get if someone wants the quick dirty idea to come out, we can do that. We can fulfill that for them. Now for the other design teams, yes, there are AI tools to, let's say, design systems. For example, we have UX UI designers here, a lot of them. Yes, we have tools that, let's say, they can scan the design system and get us to know what's working and what's not. But that's an aiding tool. That's a supporting tool. It would not create a design system from scratch. Yes, let's say Cursor and V0, yes, they can create a design system, but we've seen also here in the presentation, no, things break. Like, it's not ready yet. We're not there yet. And we explain it many times, like how this works. But honestly, throughout my career, all of it, there has never been a moment in time where designers haven't been on that pressure to deliver very quickly. And that's not just because the business teams are expecting things to come out fast. This is because the developers are more fortunate than us, because the coding is at a better stage than us. So now, ideas are coming faster and development is happening faster, and designers are still keeping their craft, trying to keep their craft intact as much as possible, and are not in a position where it can come out instantly. So if anything, in my job description at the moment is setting expectations of and carving that time. I would say especially for UI. UX are in a better position. UI, keeping that craft and trying to get this time out so that they can, you know, get that pixel perfect out. That's a hassle right now. So, guys, it's a lot of communicating the value. It's a lot of discussions with the technology team. And I don't know if you've noticed, QAing has been also very fast at the moment. Like the designs that come out, the developed designs that come out are in a much better quality than it used to be. So we don't do a lot of QAing now. So yeah, things have changed and our roles have changed. So I think it's a lot of pressure on design leadership.
I've noticed the kind of a trend, and that goes back to the maturity as well, that it's just words. Can you just fix the words? So the content design as a craft is brought in when everything is done. And then I've seen that content designer actually, they start picking stuff which is wrong with UX, which is wrong with service design. It's even wrong from the business logic or operations, or you're just translating your policy into a UI. So they feel the pain, and then how's your experience dealing with that?
Unfortunately, if you're in a situation where maturity hasn't happened and now AI has been introduced, it makes it almost triple times as hard, if not harder, because now there is a tool apparently that can just do it really quickly and do it really easily. And I think if your leadership team are struggling with understanding the difference and similarities of content design being UX and design also being UX, and fundamentally don't get it, and if they're using AI themselves, which they must be doing, right, they're going to be using it at a strategic level. And if you want a bit of strategy and a bit of planning out of AI, you can get stuff like this. Now it works. I got this great idea, I did this, it did this for me, but it's not thinking about how the craft thinks, and it's not allowing the understanding that it's not making decisions, it's not making usability decisions, it cannot be put in that position. It needs human refinement. It doesn't do edge cases. So from a content perspective, the challenge has become harder. It's now hoping that you have people that have experienced content design firsthand, like yourself, to help to pave the way, because it's really difficult. You have to take people on the journey, you have to show them the differences, you have to literally practically show them the difference between what AI can do, what do you want, what is the content strategy that you're putting in place, and for them to buy into that. And they still might question, but why do I need two people working on the same design? So then you go home and you start again today. You start again the next day. But people, we try. I think content designers, from my perspective, are very used to change and very used to being kind of, I guess, reshaped. People like to reshape our titles, our existence, the box that we live in to suit what they need for that day, that week, that strategy. So we adapt. But one thing I think we always do is we try and make sure that the work speaks for itself. When you look at population in general, one of the things that you find is inconsistency, right? People are consistently inconsistent. So if you give them, like we have Copilot here, go and use it without any rule set, without any training, guardrails or anything, you will have multiple different versions of whatever happens. So you're right, the guardrails are really important. Part of the strategy is to help people to check their own work, but against something that is pan-bank. I think that because content design sits within a design team that doesn't always sit, I guess, in maybe in a digital environment, but not in customer comms or CRM or wherever else there may be. We have to take it as a pan-bank approach, because pan-bank, everybody has access to create content now through using AI tools. So that, I think, is something that we're trying to do. We're trying to enforce. We need to have a baseline of that understanding, a baseline of people agreeing to conform to this, so that we can build on that, because trying to explain the nuance of, you know, of language to somebody whose interest isn't language is just, you know, from my perspective, is a waste of time. It might be interesting, but you need to make it practical and you need to make it usable for people, because people need to deliver. And in non-mature environments, delivery is sometimes the objective. So we need to work with the space that we have.
So now everyone can do everything. I can learn about a business, I can come up with a product idea, I can talk to business directly, I can even code, or the developer can do all of these things, right? They can design using Figma Make, Lovable, whatever. So now the lines are blurred. I really don't know how to navigate that terrain. How are you doing it?
So interesting. Like, I think I'm just going to touch back on the content bit. And I think this sort of like can connect with all of this, right? We often forget that design is not just the act of designing the screen. Content is not just the act of writing the copy, but it's also the act of designing the system, right? How are you going to make that decision? And we've gone through this, right? Like designers live and breathe for some reason in Figma. And there's nothing wrong against that. But the problem with that is that the components and all the auto layout and all the components that you've put up in Figma don't necessarily talk to the same components that are on GitHub, right? Now, one is talking in English, the other is talking in Arabic. And now you've got the developer who thinks it has to be in a certain way. I made my file for the hamburger menu to be like this. You've put the hamburger menu in your component file in a Figma in a certain way. And you both have your own rigid systems and you don't figure out how to talk to each other. So I'm just gonna ask you a blank question and it'll just give me a sense of how many of you are really using not the conversational AI, but AI in your business work. How many of you know what a .md file is? A .md file.
MD.
Yeah, a markdown file. Okay, great, a couple of them. How many of you know what are, so rules are one aspect for custom GPT, which is written in plain English, but have you guys heard of cursor rules or rules that you set up for your IDE or rules that you can set up in Figma Make? Okay, how many of you have heard of skills?
No.
Skills as a concept, great, couple of them, right? Now, these are some of the new ways of communication between English and Arabic, in my view. Uh, I think a lot of us have a design system that works really well in Figma or works really well in GitHub, and we've not figured out a way to connect the both. And we don't have an NPM package for our own design system. Whereas our design system is like 80% like all the other design systems there, with just a few nuances that are different, but we haven't really taken the approach to make that NPM package available to everybody, right? So how many of you know about Shatsian? Great, so all, whether it's Lovable, Figma Make, everybody, they're using a set of components that are predefined by this person who built up this free library called Shatsian. Now, that's why, okay, let me just take a step back. With Shatsian, and if you've heard of Tailwind, you can make anything look like anything. I think one of the things when we were at IBM and we had Carbon Design System, we probably used this design system for most of our clients, but they did not look the same. That's because styling and CSS and stuff like that is a concept. Now, if your role is the act of producing the artifact, I can bet you're not going to win that game because Claude, OpenAI, Codex, whatever you're using, whatever your poison is, they can make artifacts much faster than you. But what they cannot do is create systems that can scale with you, right? Yeah, that's all I wanted to say. If anyone has questions on this, I'd love to dig deep. I started my journey by building out a product that works for me, and now it's been used by a couple of people. And as I try to, like, the one thing I know about designers is that we've been asked to practice empathy. I think we need to move to compassion, right? Like, empathy is just like, yeah, okay, I know this is really difficult for you, but you don't do anything about that later. So I think DX Square was one of the things that I saw at ENBD, and I think that's a great initiative. You've got to figure out how to talk the same language. The computer speaks in zeros and one, and then you have React, then you have Next.js, you have all of these different languages, and Figma is different, GitHub's different. We shouldn't even talk about deployment, because even if you're a product manager or my product manager build the best looking prototype, we still don't know how to deploy that within our own environment, or even if it's safe to do that, right? So if you've got to do AI, stop building artifacts, start building systems. There are a bunch of people on YouTube that are good at it. If you spend a day, I'm sure you will move leaps and bounds on this journey. Yeah.
We've reached almost the end. And last question, 3 years from now, and I'm using 3 years, not 5 years, because the technology is evolving really, really fast. What is that one thing that designers, they're doing today, but they will not be doing?
I think the last time we connected, and I said this, and you also alluded that this might be slightly controversial, right? So the design as we know it on the screen started in the 90s. It's called WIMP, Windows, Icons, Menus, and Pointers, and which has now become pull-downs, right? If you see, nothing has changed since then. We talk about that all our customers are different, all our users are different, but our screen looks the same for 99% of the people. Google's been dabbling with generative UI. There's a library called Thesis that converts all your long text into interactable prototypes. So 3 years from now, I again think you won't be creating artifacts, you'll be creating systems, and generative UI will be an actual thing. And it might not be chat. Chat is just level 1, according to me. I think it will evolve to something being more contextual. And it's our job as designers to help everyone navigate this. Otherwise, the simple solution is get ChatGPT to answer that, right? So yeah, that's what I feel. Generative UI in 3 years, systems over artifacts.
Okay, we'll bet on that. What do you think, Nora? 3 years from now, what is it?
3 years from
one
now.
thing that designers will not be doing, they're doing it today.
So 3 years is not a lot of time, by the way. So when AI came out, what we were experiencing, the mass panic, it didn't happen in 2 years, right? In 3 years, it's, I think if we talk in 10 years, for example, this is when we will start seeing things happen and changing. And I think hardware is a big conversation that is happening right now. A lot of changes are happening. If you guys are following on the Ray-Ban glasses, and so it's kind of like that space, keep an eye on it. I think it's evolving. So I don't think we'll be designing for screens, and I think that's a good thing. Let's prepare ourselves, so there could be a lot more that we can do. It wasn't about screens to begin with, right? So maybe I come from the day and age where UX was still coming out and we were advocating for UX and how is that gonna work? Are you guys complicating things? So it was never about the interface, right? It was always about the experience itself and how can we make it easy. So yeah, bring it on, less friction, less interactivity with the screen. We can then make it, intentional based. That's cool. I can't wait to have that, actually being done in our day and age where we get to see it and be part of it. So I think if we get to prepare for it, that can be the bigger conversation. So I think we've had this conversation before, by the way. Designers need to be educated on business. That's something that guys don't miss on that. Stay connected to what's happening around you. And I'm not just talking about technology. So hold the conversation with your leaders and, try to be influential through other conversations so that when it comes to experience, it's an easy one because you've already connected on that level, on the business level. So experience is a business arm. It's huge, right? And it's a differentiator, especially in the UAE market. It's definitely a differentiator. So prepare yourselves to what's coming. Definitely, experience design's role is evolving, changing, just evolving. So a bit more skills are needed. So it was always a matter of, get broader. So now more than any other time, get yourself familiar with the tools you have at hand, and yeah, be genuinely curious and excited about what's next, because a lot is happening really on that space.
True.
A lot.
Yeah.
That's it.
Hema,
you.
interfaces are disappearing. Words would disappear. Words would stay. What's happening with content designers 3 years
I thought
from
you
now?
said no philosophical questions. What are you? 3 years from now, I think it's interesting you make the point about the blurring of lines. So if we're looking at that from that perspective, designers are blurring into product owners, product managers, content designers are blurring into doing UX and UX design using Figma, and it's been a really interesting path for a lot of people to kind of spread into different areas. Sometimes it's because it's out of interest, but sometimes I think a lot of the time actually I think it's because of lack of strategy and guidance on how does product work, what is my role, what do I do. The same for UX, the same, for designers and content. So I think that where someone isn't lifting, doing what they're supposed to do or what you expect them to do, you kind of lean into that area. From a content perspective, in 3 years' time, I don't know. It could be very, very much what it is today. It could be that people are losing their jobs to AI, as predicted by so many people. The thing that I will always advise any content designer that asks is to understand how to use AI, but not just how to prompt it, how you use it for your personal, your kind of personal content creation. Understand how it can be efficient, understand what makes a good prompt, play around with putting tone of voice into it, play around with putting your languages into it, see how it works, own that governance, own the model, be the person, because I still believe that content needs a human, and it needs what you mentioned, guardrails, but someone needs to be the guardian of those guardrails. It cannot just be left, because someone will come along and go, well, I don't actually like that, I'm going to change it. You need to have that guardian or team of guardians. The content that I see coming out of AI that is the best is done by content designers. So learning, you don't have to be a developer or a coder. Learn how you can manage content through AI, because as you've mentioned, you are asking those questions in interview, and it will set you apart from other content people, because whether you like it or not, strategically, companies want efficiency, and they will want to know how you use AI and how you're going to bring that efficiency to your next role. So you need to be prepared. And for the next 3 years, I wish everyone good luck, because who knows?
Thank you. That's an amazing note to finish on.
Hi, Lucas from Magital Futem. So I have a question about robots, because you mentioned AI, but actually robots, I think, are a much bigger impact, especially, for example, Amazon is, we're supposed not to talk about it, but firing 750,000 people in warehouses in US, according to the leaked strategy note by New York Times, because of robots. So what is the influence of robots in the 3 years on our lives, actually? Like, what's your prediction?
Big question. Oh my God. Yes. So what is the impact of having it's not a matter of will the technology be there or not. We have Elon Musk and the likes to make sure that the technology would be there. It's, are we ready as humans to receive that kind of service and advice and, from a robot? I think there is something still there that we haven't cracked yet. And I think it just needs time to see them evolve, and because they have let us down a few times, like ChatGPT and the likes, for example, they've been evolving, but they did let us down a few times. So do we trust them enough to get information or get advice and give them our body to operate on? It's a huge topic. It's a loaded topic.
I think there's a trend towards more technical writing. I think that's come about in the last decade with a lot of fintechs, especially fintechs that are third-party solutions for companies. They have a lot of documentation, a lot of usability that they need to come with their products. If we're looking at answering questions, for example, you need a repository. I've seen firsthand having a repository written by non-content people will give you some really wacky answers, because AI is only as good, as I mentioned before, as what you feed it. So I think there is space for content to kind of, in the olden days, it was help articles and a massive help section on your website. That will now be a back-end repository of all the information that you might house for your bank or for your products or for whatever it is you need, so that when you do go to a search within an app or within a browser, you're getting the most relevant answer. I think that's it's what people want when they search for something. They want the instance of something that's relevant and also correct. So I think content design is still needed there, and I would hope that that's something that's evolving. And I think that there's lots of products at the moment and companies where they have remove their content writers and then they're inviting them back, because you can't live without content writers. But also you need to I've got a t-shirt with that on, I promise. It's because people assume that they know how to write, and with all respect, they don't always know how to write. I think that they find that out sometimes the hard way, or sometimes they're just very honest with themselves and say, look, my passion might be writing, but I'm learning, or my interest might be writing, but maybe I'm on the sidelines of it. So I think it's that's where I can see it going, but it really does depend. If someone creates an AI tool that does write in a specific way, then it's potentially a winning formula. So,
Okay, thanks. Hi, I think we've talked a lot about AI first, AI replacing product managers, designers, friends, financial advisors. But on the other end of spectrum, we're also seeing people wanting to go analog, people wanting more human experiences. Do you think companies are going to have to adopt not just an AI first, but more so like a hybrid approach go forward?
who wants to go?
I think it's open to everyone.
You can go first.
I think it's a great observation, right? We had Jira, but then we've now seen the rise of linear, and the only thing linear offers is taste and design. I'm not sure how many of you use linear in your day-to-day, but it's like this dark-looking Jira that just looks more snobby and much more elegant, right? So I think companies are going to try and figure out what their moat is. If you see online, you must have seen a lot of analog experiences are coming back where you can roll and hear sounds and get haptic feedback. So this is really about what you think as a company, what your moat would be, right? For things like, for us, example, we have about 1 million products that come in every year. So we can't get a content writer to write 1 million products, and we're okay with that because we know we can't really get the value for a customer on that. But if that customer has to look at what are the 3 things that communicate the value that we provide, we need that content writer to do that, right? So it's about where is the arbitrage. So there are places where AI, especially where there's less risk, and I think that's why in banking it's very hard to use AI at scale. But if it's low risk, I think AI will definitely be prioritized for efficiency. But if it's high risk, it's risk management, it's letting go of your top customer, and you've got to think of a communication strategy. Yeah, that's definitely going to be a human. So what's your moat and what's your arbitrage? Yeah.
Can I add maybe? I can add to that something that we've been noticing. So the narrative that goes around now in companies is that AI makes it human first, actually. What is not natural was interacting with a screen. That is the unnatural thing. And who trained the AI? It's humans. So that's a technology that enables someone to interact in a very human way and get what they want. So I don't see this, one versus the other. It's it's a new era. And we just need to, embrace that, adapt to that, learn that. And because maybe I come from a time also when I've seen it so many times, before the internet, after. Okay, I'm not that old, guys. I did, it was in the beginning, we were like, yeah, so I'm holding a mouse. I remember that, but then, خلاص, you get used to it. So there's no going back. Technology is not apologetic. خلاص, we're in that stage, and it's time to embrace it. Yeah.
I think, look, my perspective is that you want things to work. You order something on the app, it's on your doorstep in 15 minutes or whatever. But if you remember COVID, the thing that brought the world together was the need for community, the need for human interaction. Humans are, our entire makeup is to connect somehow with a human. And I think that until you don't know that you are interacting with a machine, this is my perspective, you won't love it. So, you've seen on those sci-fi movies, I can't remember which one, but someone will go, oh my God, it's a droid, because they didn't know. And then suddenly you have this entire kind of like fear of that person that 5 seconds ago was a real human to you. And you have a wall up, a guard up. If that is removed from humans, then maybe the question is, are we still human ourselves? But I still think that craving of being understood, being heard, having your story known, being seen is something that humans generally crave, even if they don't want to say it out loud. And I don't see AI taking that role, not now and not in 3 years, and hopefully not for many decades to come. So, yay, humans.
Yay! I'm so sorry. This will have to be the last question. Please do connect with the guests. We've run out of time. I really, really want to thank all of you. Thank you, Henrietta, and thanks to all of you for coming out tonight.